Hello, and welcome back to the Conscious Contact podcast. My name is Genay Peavey, and I'm here with my co-host Susan Sanders. And yeah, we're going to talk about false connections. It makes me think of what was the newspaper section?
Missed connections.
Misconnections.
I saw you on the platform on the A train and we made eye contact right before the doors closed.
Oh my God. I was the brunette in Whole Foods and you were wearing spandex and I don't know why that popped in. I'm not old enough to remember that, but I've seen it in movies and stuff.
Yeah.
That is immediately what I thought of.
And that is not what we're talking about.
No, it is not. Or maybe
That's
it could
awesome.
be. Depends on where our conversation goes.
Well, you know what? Let me start by saying I think that missed connections could be part of false connections.
Yeah.
So let's say, for example, nope, that's not a good example. So let me talk about false connections. And I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna swing it around. That's what I do. False connections is something that I think can happen consciously and unconsciously. And I think for a long time, I had false connections with people because I had some aspirations of that I wanted to be a certain way. Whether and mostly I'm thinking like corporate America, like I wanted to be C-suite, very high up, important, whatever. And that would mean dressing a certain way or presenting myself in a way that the person that I was trying to impress connected with me. I was presenting myself in a way that was setting up the other person to falsely connect with me.
Yes.
And this is painting it really broad strokes, and then we'll quickly get down into the nitty gritty, I'm sure. When I was presenting myself in this false way, number one, I wasn't connecting with myself. And, I think there are false connections with other people and false connections with ourselves. But also, when I was presenting myself one way, I was completely missing connections with the people who I really could have connected with.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to connect with person A over here, girl, boss, babe, whatever, in my power suit with shoulder pads.
Oh my God.
Then the person over here that just wants to dig in the dirt and talk about plants, I was acting as if I wasn't interested in that so that I would be connecting with this person. So I did make a joke at the top, but misconnections could be part of false connections.
100%. Yeah. And I love the way that you've kind of framed this out. And what I hear from that is we are multitudes. And when we pigeonhole ourselves, whether it's because we're striving for something or because we think this particular person is only going to respect or like us if we are this certain way, we falsify ourselves, we narrow ourselves down, which is like not okay because again, like we are multitudes, we are a huge bandwidth of things. Like I can like wearing dresses and doing housework while also you give me a four-wheeler to hop on, it's on. Like right. I am both of those things. I am a human who has a podcast and has to deal with technology to edit that and work with that, and also needs to use social media for business. And I'm also someone that wants to get rid of my cell phone.
Right.
And is legitimately considering it, like I've researched every dumb phone on the market and I'm getting very close to pulling the trigger on that, which could be a whole podcast. I am both of those things. I am both addicted to social media and disgusted by it, because that is the nature of it. I am someone who wants to be successful in business, but I am also someone who is a helpmeet to my partner. And part of my job is to support him, like legitimately. And it's that thing where it is not necessarily that we are being false about like ourselves. We are trying to we are assuming so much about what the other person wants from us
Right.
or what they are willing to accept us as. And that is like such a control thing also. Like that is so manipulative, and I did not see it as that nefarious until I really started looking at it.
Mhm.
It's manipulation, like to a T. I'm going to say what this person wants me to say or what I think they want me to say, and that's going to make them feel this way, and then I'm going to get this from them, and then whatever.
Mhm.
And I run so far in the opposite direction from that. I do, and I know that I fall short of this. I do try to be my authentic self now. In the past, not at all. Try to be my authentic self and show up as me. And the times that I feel false connections is when other people are not as open to that. And
Yes.
they are pigeonholing themselves, and I can hear it. And I'm like, ugh, I really wish we could like shift this conversation away from what you think is valuable and is like really not and is super service level about yourself.
Mhm.
And I would love to talk more about this other thing, you know? But I stop
Yes.
myself because, again, that's control too. And I have to let them, that might be what they're comfortable talking about, and it sucks. There's birds going ape shit outside. I don't know if you can hear them. Sorry,
I kind of
squirrel.
hope it picks up on the mic, but I kind of hope it doesn't, right? Yeah. Well, two things about that. If I can remember both of them. The first thing is I think when you're in a situation like that, what would it feel like to you to ask probing questions to
Yeah,
someone? And
yeah.
not saying to them, "Well, I think you're just hiding behind something. What do you really feel?"
And I want to say that so often to people.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
and I know that's not okay to do, like socially or like
Well, it's
in a
okay to
kind
do
way.
if someone were to ask you, that would be
I would
okay.
love it.
Yes.
I would love if someone asked me that.
So it is okay to do if you know that person and how they'll receive it. But it
Yeah.
sounds like you're saying you know that person
Yeah.
and that
Or
person
I
has
don't know
been,
that person at
yeah,
all.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what would that feel like to you to maybe ask questions that you don't necessarily connect with, but might draw the other person out?
It's horrible and I hate it. I'm working on it. And this kind of goes into like being an introvert and really hating surface level conversation because it does feel so awkward and gross to me.
Mm-hmm.
And wanting to dive into super deep stuff immediately with people when that might not be okay for them.
Yeah.
It's hard. And it's hard to figure out if it's not okay with them because like they don't know me or they don't feel safe or this might offend them or that's just their personality. Or
Mm-hmm.
is it upon me to take it there and that's what they really want too?
Right.
But they're nervous.
Maybe they've never had someone who actually listens to their answer,
Yeah.
so they always stay surface because
Yeah.
it's it's awkward and gross for them.
Yeah.
Is awkward always gross?
Yeah. For me, I don't know. I hate it.
Yeah.
And I mean, just specifically with like surface level conversation, I really dislike talking about the weather unless we're going to talk about like how jazzed I am that it's fall and how the crispness makes me feel alive and or the
Yeah.
crunching of the leaves like soothes me in a way that only God and meditation can. Like
Yeah.
that is, if we're going to talk about the weather, that's what I want to talk about. Not how'd you enjoy your weekend? Oh, the weather was nice. Yeah, my kids played softball. Okay, that's great.
That's the start of every conference call I have all day long.
It just makes me want to throw up. I would rather be like,
Yeah.
did you see any good movies this weekend? What are you watching on Netflix? Like at least that gives me
Yeah.
a window into like what they're interested in.
Right.
So
Right.
I can then either talk about myself, like if they mention a rom-com, I can immediately be like, oh, please tell me how you enjoy that because I don't understand it at all. Or if they're into
Yeah.
horror, I can immediately be like, I'm going to grab onto you and we're going to be
Yeah.
best friends now. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. So have you had conversations that are awkward that do they all is the start of awkward always gross or can you end up with a connection that takes that away? It's
we
still
can,
awkward.
yeah, I can move it. I can move the needle, but it's
Mhm.
just a lot of me ignoring my own feelings, which I think is part of genuine
Mm,
connection is like you being selfless enough to maybe understand that whatever this person wants to talk about, you don't really want to talk about.
yeah.
And that's okay. And not every conversation needs to be like this podcast. I mean, I wish it was. But yeah, sometimes it can be really just me fighting to stay present in the
Right.
moment
Right.
and not turn my ears off when they're waxing poetic about something or they're telling me the same story that they told me the last time I saw them, which that's really hard for me to not,
Yeah.
because I know it's a shitty, not socially acceptable thing to do, to say, oh yeah, you told me that last time, or
Mm,
we've talked about this before, which if they're a close friend, I'll say that to them. But
right.
I don't have close friends that do that. I don't know if that's one is the
Yeah.
causation of the other, but it is hard. It is hard to balance like what is socially acceptable versus how am I showing up as my authentic self and making a genuine connection versus I don't know this person and they don't care about this conversation, because that's the other thing too. Like I really hate entering conversations where I know the person just said hello to me and asked me how I am and literally gives zero fucks about my answer.
Right.
Like, don't ask me then, is my thought.
Don't ask me how I'm doing while you're looking over my shoulder at
Yes.
everybody else.
Or staring at your phone. Like, I would rather you not ask me. Like, I get that they're trying to do the socially acceptable thing, but it's less socially acceptable for me for you to ask me that and not care.
Yeah, and this is
Like, why do humans do that? Why do we ask people how they are and then the person responds with, oh, I'm fine, and how are you? And then the other person says, I'm fine, when neither one of us are fine.
well, first of all, people don't say fine, they say we're super busy.
Oh, I don't have friends like that, so go you, Susan.
Can't stand it. Oh, we're so busy.
Ew. Is that like a dick measuring contest? Or is that what it
Yes.
turns into? Ooh.
Exactly.
Say more about that.
I don't want to. What I I say I don't want to, but here I'm going to go wading into this swamp.
Uh-huh.
That is when there's a disconnect. All of what you just described is everyone disconnecting with everything.
Yeah.
When I'm wading into a conversation that people start with, oh, we're so busy, I'm immediately being like, ugh. And then I stay in that conversation. I'm not connecting with myself. I don't have a true connection with myself because
Yeah.
either I don't want to be in a surface conversation with a person I want to go deep with, or I am with a surface person who is taking time away from someone I could be deep with, which might just be myself.
Right. Yeah.
And am I staying in it anyway? I'm not true to myself, or I'm not I'm going to say interrogating, but like, I'm not asking the follow-up questions with that person is a better way to say it.
Yeah.
And I'm not being true with them. It's like almost like I'm fostering these false connections.
Yes. And I can get into that too. Like, I'm going to try to make this conversation run its course. So I'm going to ask the obligatory follow-up or not, because I know this is what you want me to do so that you can fulfill whatever bitch fest or complain fest you've got going on.
The
Because
dick measuring contest where you're going to go on about how busy you are. And I'm going to be like,
yes.
We just don't have a lot going on.
And that, you know what? Like, I respond to people like that exactly what you just said. Like, and that's probably really rude of me. I don't know, because I don't know how else to respond. Either I say, that sounds tough, I'm glad that I'm not you. And I've said that to plenty of people. Or I've said, oh, when can you plan a break for yourself? Because it really is like, there's one thing if you're complaining about something and you're like asking for solution or experience, strength, and hope, or you want to move past it or whatever. But if this is the 5th time I've talked to you in a week and you're literally complaining about the same thing, I want to help you. You're not asking for help, but I want to help you help yourself.
Right. And I remember I was complaining about my work just being insane. And I would say something like, work has really just hit a super busy streak. And you're like, still again?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was. But now that it has calmed down a bit, I'm like, okay, so I shouldn't complain about the super busy times because now I'm complaining about the slow time, or vice versa. I shouldn't complain about slow because I just got done complaining about busy.
And I mean, it's kind of all of that. How am I going to put this in a way that is like understandable? thoughts out to words is hard. So I can get in that place too. Like, especially if I'm going through something. And again, there's a difference between going through something and legitimately trying to talk it out with someone and then me following it up with, here's what I'm doing to try to move past this.
Yes.
Like family stuff or, just cyclical seasons of life. But there is this other thing where if I let myself go down that rabbit hole, like if I am super busy or if I do legitimately have something that's just going to take a while to resolve, even though I'm working on it, if I find myself talking about it too much, I'm sick of myself at a certain point. And I realize if I'm continually talking about this to the same person, that's really selfish of me. Like, why, if I know this is what I'm going to talk about and I know this is still where I'm at, why can I not just condense that down and be like, yeah, I'm still walking through this. I'm doing better. How about you? Like I do try to intercede with myself and it does not work all the time. But I do try to intercede with myself and say, what about you? Or how are you? Or tell me about X, Y, or Z that's going on with this person that we talked about last time. Like,
Yeah.
if I feel myself getting a little long in the tooth with whatever the hell I'm complaining about, and it really is like complaints.
Right.
And if it crosses that line and I can hear myself in my head going, I'm like, okay, let me figure out something to ask them about that they're passionate about or that I know that they're going through.
Yeah.
Because that inherently, one, it will help me be more present. Because also when I complain, I'm completely shut off. Like, it's not doing me any good. I'm not going to listen to any advice they have for me because most of the time I'm just bitching to bitch.
Right.
If I don't catch myself. But yeah, it takes a lot of presentness and conversation to be able to maneuver through all of that.
Yeah.
Because it is messy sometimes. And it is like you can get annoyed by conversations or people sometimes. And I don't want to be that person. I really don't.
Yeah.
I really don't.
I don't want to be that person. And sometimes I'm just in a room where if I am truly connected with myself and I offer something up, I get crickets back. And this happens at work. This happened last week when there's a meeting that happens every Thursday afternoon and the person facilitating the meeting tries to give us a pep talk like, it's Thursday, we have one more day, we're surviving, we're gonna make it to the weekend. Just hang in there, you can do it. And I said last week, I think I wonder what it would be like if we all just tried to thrive instead of just surviving each week.
Yeah. And
that dead silence was exactly what I got back. And I'm like, if not, same time next week. Like,
oh, fuck. I mean, and maybe that's just, what you need to do to thrive. And everyone else is none of your business, unfortunately.
Exactly. And I tried to do the whole thing like, okay, this is what I need because I don't want to just survive it.
That's gross, yeah.
And make it through the work week and
what
all
kind of
that.
life is that?
Right. And I had, I felt truly connected with what I want. And instead of and I just know that perhaps in this proverbial room, the Zoom room or whatever that we were in, perhaps in that room, it's just going to be false connection because people are like, dude, we're at work.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in talking about the fact that I'm in survival mode 24/7 right now. You can be Susie connected with yourself, but I'm not interested. And I'm learning to let people have that shield up.
Yes. And I think that is the linchpin there. I think that, is that the right term? The linchpin? Not the kingpin. That's wrong. Linchpin. Yes.
I'll go with it.
I think that is the key because then it's no longer a false connection because you have changed you. And you're showing up and you're being your authentic self. And if they want to still be them, whatever.
Right.
But you have removed that falsehood. You've stopped showing up as who you think they want you to be or how you should fit in for this hustle mentality and just do it, just go, just you'll get through this week and then
Sprint
it'll
to the
be
finish.
fine.
Da-da-da.
Yeah. And that's okay for some people. I don't know how, but again, like it has nothing to do with me.
Right.
And I want to try to stay out of it as much. although I would love for them to like listen to this podcast and like reevaluate their life.
Yeah. And that's what I was going to say, that the reason for this podcast is, I know for myself, I was and still am running into a lot of that.
Yeah.
People that aren't willing and or able to let down that armor to have that true connection.
Yeah.
Which is the purpose of this podcast, to have more conversations, foster conversations between the two of us and our listeners, and maybe to offer topics that people could have some of these true connections about.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I have the preposition in the right spot there.
I wouldn't know.
And
you writer.
That's right. I'm just gonna, copy, cut and edit it. I'm not. Because there isn't a lot of that out there. It's something that I have found works for me in creating the idea of, we need relationships. Even introverts need relationships.
Yes.
They just look different.
Yes.
And I can feel when it is different.
Agreed. Yes. And I kind of went through a long period of time where I thought, because I'm introverted, I'm just not going to be able to have friends.
Yes.
Like,
same.
And I went through a season of life where I didn't have friends. Pre-sobriety and then after sobriety, it was really hard. I'm getting ready to speak at a meeting, and it's got me really thinking about like how sad I was during that period of time. Like, I remember crying to Luke, like, I have no friends and I don't know what I'm supposed to do, because I just kept trying. And I feel very lucky. This was God, not me. I was continuing to show up as my authentic self, and I was continuing to try to fucking force and foster, one or the other, these relationships with people that were just not able or willing or wanted to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really taxing for me. Like, I would have people no show to coffee dates and like just not respond to me anymore. And it is a lot of like high school rejection feelings or middle school rejection feelings.
Yeah.
And I was trying to hold on to these people so hard. And my sponsor was like, maybe this is just not your person.
Yeah.
And
a step further, even maybe I'm not their person.
Yes. Yeah.
That is the part that has been harder for me to swallow, is that I'm not for everybody.
No. Yeah.
I can be a lot, but the people that I am their person for, they have the capacity for that.
Yes.
And I'm also learning that smaller groups, I do better, because when I get in a group of friends, I feel like I need to be an entertainer. My Enneagram oneness comes out strongly. And then I get home and my feelings are hurt because nobody asked, like, how are you feeling about the anniversary of your mom's death coming up? Yeah. Like, no one wants to talk about that over brunch.
Or maybe they do, but they wanted you to foster that, to start that convo.
But then when I do start conversations like that, and this is inherent in big groups, when I do start conversations like that, I get interrupted. And if someone interrupts me, I am so quick to shut down. I just think of like a transformer. Yeah. And down it goes. So it's inherent in a bigger group because we all are excited to share things, etc. This is the story I tell myself, because I don't think these people are thinking enough about me to be like, oh, I don't want to talk about her mother's death. Let me start talking about our trip that's coming up.
I mean, shit, we talk about all the time on here, like how we don't like to deal with uncomfortable emotions and what we use to cope with that. And I mean, it might legitimately be that for them.
It might be. I mean,
or they could be completely unconscious of it, and that's just who they are.
I don't want to flatter myself that someone is thinking about me that much.
No. They're thinking about themselves and how uncomfortable that they are. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
Or fortunately.
So, I think friendships, and I know this is on our docket to talk about, but, that false connection, a lot of friendships are built on false connection. Yeah. And that is why people feel so alone in a group of people.
Yeah. And
there's no worse feeling.
It's terrible. And I've talked to some ladies about that, and I just have like my own introverted way of dealing with that. And I do the same thing that we're talking about here. I say, This is not about me. I am not important enough for people to give a shit. If I want to be included, I need to include myself. If I
Mhm.
feel left out, I need to spark a conversation with someone who looks like they also feel left out. Like, it's
Mm.
on me to be the change. Like, I need to show up and be that for someone else if I want it for me.
Mhm.
And that has helped me out in a lot of group settings. But it is so extremely hard when you're like in the middle of your feels about that, or if you're in a particularly vulnerable season of life.
Mhm.
It is really hard. And like truly, I don't hang out with any big groups of people that I like I'm friendly with.
Mhm.
Like, it's one-on-one. And that's all that I really want.
Mhm.
Because again, like, one, I really want to go deep with people. It's hard to go deep with a whole group of people at once.
Yeah,
That's a rarity.
I was thinking about that so say for example, when you were at the family reunion,
Yeah.
how does false connection, true connection
Ugh.
show up in something like that? 'Cause
Yeah.
I mean, it's obviously a big group,
Yeah.
but you're having one-on-one conversations.
Yes. That's all I focus on is like trying to have lots of singular one-on-one conversations with people and not
Mhm.
walking into like a little pod of
Right.
people standing around and try to talk to them.
Yeah.
Or just realizing like I only see these people once every year, if that. They don't really know me. It's okay for me to just say, "You look well. It's so good to see you. I'm so
Mm.
glad that you're here. This is great that we're doing this and getting everybody together again." And that's
Yeah.
not necessarily false. It's just I don't know that person. They don't know me. We're
Mm.
related by blood, and that's okay for us to just enjoy being next to each other for once a
Yeah.
year.
Do you
And they're
think
still alive. I'm still alive.
do you think that is the true connection?
I think so. Like, sometimes with those surface level kind of things, sometimes I'm just present. And if I can just be present and like turn off my selfish wants of what the conversation is, turn
Yeah.
off my expectations, turn off what I want to talk about, and just stand there,
Mhm.
not break awkward silences, not interject shit, not say something
Mm.
weird that I hope they respond to in an equally weird way. If I'm just there and it's like, it's good to see you, great Aunt so and so,
Yeah.
or just like give her a hug and walk away, like, that's okay.
Mhm.
Or just like go eat banana pudding by myself. It's
Right.
fine. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Because no one cares about me. Like, no one's gonna, if I wasn't there, no one would have given a shit. You know what I mean? Like,
I think they would have.
well, but you know what I'm saying. Like, I need to get out of my own head and realize that these because that's the other thing too. I think this is the bigger overarching thing. I crave deep connection so much. I assume that other people feel the same way.
Yes, keep
And they
going.
don't.
Yep.
And they just don't. Some people just don't. And
Mhm.
most people, like, the world does not revolve around me. And if I don't have this huge, deep conversation that they remember for weeks, like I want to have with people,
Yeah.
they don't care. Like, this is just a throwaway social nicety, and we're
Mhm.
related, and they said hello to me, and then they completely forget about it until next year.
But you know what they don't forget about it, Janae, is they don't forget how that made them feel.
Yes. Yeah.
That is, I think that's Maya Angelou. People may forget what you say to them, but they don't forget how you made them
Yes.
feel.
Yeah.
And maybe that is part of this connection too. It's
Mhm.
not always two people sharing 50-50.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the other person has 90% to share, but
Yes.
they felt like you listened 90% where you're like, well, shit, I participated 10% in that. I didn't give them anything.
Yeah.
Maybe what I'm supposed to bring to some of these connections is the bowl to which receiving
Yes.
their fill in the
Yes.
blank, whatever it
Yeah,
might
or
be.
just eye contact and the head
All of
nods,
that.
like all the things that I'm terrible with.
Right.
Showing up and sometimes it's just giving that person what they need and
Yeah.
what they like, meeting their expectations of the conversation, even if those expectations are super low.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that might be all they have the bandwidth for. Like, I don't know what's going on in their life. Like,
Right.
they might have just lost someone they care about. Like, I don't know. It could be the anniversary of their mother's passing. Like, I don't know.
Right.
Sometimes I just need to like shut up and get over it and not talk about aliens or serial killers. Like,
Right.
and just be like, how are you? And genuinely mean it and give them the space to talk about it and not interject my own bullshit.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to shift gears a little bit, but
Ooh.
still under false connection. One of the ways that you and I have talked about false connection manifesting itself is with gossip.
Oh, fuck. Yeah.
Because I think one of the things, that I have caught myself with gossip is the false connection. Like, I'm concerned about Sally.
Oof.
And did you know that she was acting like this, and then that happened, and then she said this? Is she okay?
It's such a fine line there. I mean, it's not when you really look at it.
Right. And that
But-
is my false connection with Sally about whom I'm gossiping. And I truly think that that would be a false connection that I would have with you.
Yeah.
Because why are we connecting about someone else?
Yeah. Unless we're going to take actionable steps to go help them. Like,
Right.
unless you're saying, hey, can you do a welfare check on them? Or like, hey,
Right.
do they need me to send them a meal? Because I know that so-and-so's going through this. Like, is there a meal train sign up?
Right.
Is there a phone tree sign up? You know, like, that's different.
Yes.
But saying, oh my God, did you see Sally Mae and how she came the other night? Like, oh my God, do you think
Freddie Mac left?
Yeah, like what's happening?
Yeah.
100%. And that is so like checking your motives while you're in the middle of a conversation.
Yep.
Oof. That's hard. Like, that's some deep shit. That's deep work. To be in the middle of saying something. And I think we were at a business meeting, and you mentioned you asked me if I knew a particular person or whatever, and I said no or absolutely not. And I said, that's all I'm gonna, and because I could tell you were like, oh, why? And you were like, never mind.
We were talking about a partnership, a potential partnership, and you said absolutely not with that person ever. And I was like, oh my God, what happened? Wait a minute, don't tell me. Don't tell me.
And I was like, thank you, because there's nothing else for me to say about it.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't matter. Like, it just doesn't. Like, that is my opinion today.
Exactly.
And that's what it is, and it does not matter. And I think also you know me well enough that it doesn't need an explanation if I feel that strongly about it.
I don't care however anybody knows anybody and how well they know. If someone says no, no means no.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's hard for people to do on that other end too.
Yes.
Because that is where that's where my issue with gossip is someone will say, ooh, tell me.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel the need to explain.
Right.
It's still gossip.
Yes.
It's still gossip. And fuck, it's hard. Like, that's so hard.
It is hard. And it's awkward in the moment, because then I was like, well, now I need to backtrack. Like, do I need to like tell her why I was going to ask her what happened?
Yeah. You get in your head like, ugh.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all of that is detracting from the connection. And if we got back to it, I want to connect with you as a human being, and you are saying no.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what your reason is.
Yeah.
The connection means no.
Yeah.
And so we move on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you know, part of the, tell me the story is the idea of Schadenfreude. Like, we want to feel good about someone else's misery. Like, tell me what that person did, because now I want to.
That's why I watch true crime, because like I want none of that in my life, but I want to like hear the drama of like what I found a new true crime channel on YouTube, and I'm like going down a rabbit hole with it. But it is so true. Like the someone else's drama or excitement or kerfuffle as entertainment.
Yes.
And it is hard to break that. And I mean, that's why The Bachelor is so popular. That is why like all these reality TV shows are so popular. It's not the people, it's the drama. It's the drama of it all, and who's fighting with who and who made up with who. And did you hear about this other person that left and then came back? Like, it is this weird thing. And I do think it has a lot to do with trying to make a connection with someone over a shared shock and awe.
Right.
When there's other things, but it requires work to connect over stuff that is not so emotionally swirling like that.
Yeah. And, you know, particularly with Schadenfreude is that you are relishing in someone else's bad news for all intents and purposes.
Yeah.
And when you do that, you're completely disconnecting from the empathy of, oh my gosh, how devastating must it be that this person just broke up with their boyfriend?
Yes.
Like, as ridiculous as I think it is, like, I'm sorry, you were together
They're
for 3
having real
days?
emotions about it.
That's
Yeah,
right.
yeah, or
Yeah,
seemingly, yeah.
disconnecting from that empathy.
Yes, yeah, which is
Mhm.
hard for me in general
To
to
connect with
connect
empathy?
with it, empathy. So,
Mhm.
like, even more so when it comes to that stuff. And again, like, there's that line because some people are genuinely asking because they care about the well-being of this other person that we both know, and they're
Mhm.
like, "How is so and so?" or "Have you heard from so and so?"
Yep.
And it's so hard to answer that question in a way that isn't gossip. You know what I mean? A lot of the times I will say, um, I think she would appreciate if you reached out to her.
That's right.
If they're not doing well. That's what I normally try to say.
Yes, that's so
Or
good.
like, because if you are concerned about how they are and we're not just here to gossip, message them.
Mhm.
Or do you want their number? Because like at the end of the day, also, like, I truly don't know how someone is most of the time, unless like I literally just got done talking to them.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, and the 2 of us connecting about what someone else's struggle
Yeah.
is the if the 2 of us are delighting in the 3rd person's struggle,
Yeah.
that Schadenfreude I was talking about, that is us not connecting with each other
Mhm.
and us not connecting with that person, like, in an empathetic way.
Yeah.
Whereas I love your response because that is inviting the other person to have empathy for that person, then going to have a true connection with them.
Yes.
And that I just think fosters an upward, unvicious cycle,
Yes. No, I
whatever that might
agree.
be.
Yeah. Because I mean, I'm human. And when I catch myself in a situation where I'm like, oh shit, we're in the middle of gossiping and I didn't even realize it. Or
Yeah.
they will mention, like, because the scenario that it happens in that I notice most often is someone will ask me about a specific situation.
Mm-hmm.
Or like, did you see S- Sally do this? Or is Sally feeling better from this situation? And I'll be like, um, I'm not really sure. She seemed okay last time I was talking to her. And then I see myself like starting to go down that rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm.
What I try to follow that up with is I think that she like if we're speaking about someone in recovery specifically, like I think she would love for more people to reach out to her. I think that she needs that just like we all do.
Mm-hmm.
And if they are outraged or shocked by an action that this person who might not be well yet
Mm-hmm.
is doing, I will say, I have been there. They are a sick person. We can hate the disease and the actions that it causes, but we have to love the person
Mm-hmm.
and we have to reach out to them as if they are us,
Right.
like, because we've all been there.
Yeah.
We've all been crazy before we were semi well. I'm still a little crazy, but it really trying to like force that empathy mostly for myself in
Yeah.
in that moment to get me out of like talking about someone's personal business.
Well, I think you can even call a spade a spade. Like, oh, I think I'm slipping down the slope of gossip.
Yeah,
But let me wrap this up
valid.
by saying I just know Sally would love to hear from you. Do you have her
Yes,
number?
exactly. Like, can you drive her to a meeting?
Yeah.
Like, like that's another thing. Like, she could use a ride,
Yep.
like it's so hard. And that line can get very murky if you don't check your motives. And
Yeah.
it's hard to stay on top of, but you can stop at any time. That's the other thing that is big for me that I've tried to notice is if you're in the middle of one of those conversations, you can stop.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to keep going through the story's climax. You know what I mean? Like you can
That's
say,
right.
actually, I don't really want to talk about this anymore.
Yeah.
Like,
Or you could even say, dear listener, dear viewer, this is what they were talking about. Oh my gosh. I just
damn
listened
it.
to this podcast about gossip and the false connection.
Yes.
I think we're talking about Sally instead of talking about what's going on with
Us.
ourselves.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
tell me what you're doing for the rest of the day. Like, let's bring it back.
Exactly. Yeah. Even if I'm like complaining about like if I'm complaining about a member of the family that like did something that got on my nerves, or if I'm complaining about some outside source that is
Mm-hmm.
so affecting me, like if I'm talking about that person still, that is a false connection because it doesn't matter what they did. I need to be talking about my feelings. Like if I'm with a friend,
Yeah.
if I want to like work through this and figure it out, I need to quit talking about like what my trigger was or what this person's doing
Mm-hmm.
and really talk about like what it's making me feel.
Yes.
Like that is where the meat is. And it's like kind of gossip if I'm still talking about whatever the fuck they supposedly did to me or how wild they were
Yes.
being, you know?
Yeah. Like in recovery, for example, like if I start talking about how I saw somebody falling off a bar stool
Mhm.
and they just made a complete asshole of themselves,
Yeah.
I should probably be talking about that. Just brings back all kind of memories of how I acted out and the shame I
Yep.
felt.
Yep.
And that is what I want to connect with the person about
Yes.
instead of laughing at the person who is
Yes.
behaving
Yep.
thus and such and, whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Because there's always a root of that. Because we are the selfish and self-centered people that we are, there is a common thread that makes us think of some emotion.
Yep.
It's somewhere in there. And you can even just be like, whoo, it's bringing up a lot. Don't know
Yes.
what that lot is.
Yeah.
That's something I'm going to need to come back
Or
to.
shit, I'm glad that's not me anymore. And how did I get to the place where that isn't me anymore? And like
Mm-hmm.
being grateful for that.
Yeah.
And like say that I'm saved from that and that I could just as easily be right back there
Yeah.
if I don't stay on top of my shit and I don't quit gossiping.
Right. Right. Because we may not always have the answer of what it's bringing up
Yep.
and all of that.
Yep.
But you can acknowledge that stuff is being brought up.
Yes.
And sometimes talking
100%.
through it, like you said, just verbally processing through it,
Yeah.
which is what we are doing on this podcast,
Yeah.
will bring you, helps you land the plane of what we're talking about.
Oh my God. Yes. And that's like the whole thing is to me, like when we're talking about this and we're really getting into it, it can't be a false connection if I am connected with myself and I'm being true to myself in whatever way that's manifesting.
Okay, say that again.
The false connection, whether or not it's false, solely relies on me
Yes.
and has nothing to
Yes.
do
Yep.
with that person, how they react to me, what they want to talk about, how shitty I might think they're being. Like, it doesn't matter. If I am present in the moment and I'm connecting with them and I'm connecting with myself, it's not a false connection. Even if I'm sitting there struggling my brain, like, I wish we weren't talking about this, but I need to be present. I need to hear what they have to say. Like, even if I'm still doing hamster wheel mental gymnastics, the fact that I'm listening to that instead of trying to run away
Yeah.
is true connection. Like, even if it's just with me.
Right.
Shit is hard.
I would say, especially if it's just happening with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
That's the only person you can control.
Yeah. The times I have been like in the middle of I'm going to call it meditation because I have trouble saying prayer and meditation, but
Mm-hmm.
the times I have trouble with it and I get antsy, how much time left? I check the timer, check the timer. Like, oh, I'm just going to stop 2 minutes early. The value is in staying until the miracle happens.
Yes.
Just waiting until that timer goes off. Even if I just say, you know what? I can't have my eyes closed any longer.
Yep. Even if I'm staring at my fucking cat who is now on my shoulder, forcing me to pay attention to her.
Not for real in the video. You're not going crazy. There is no cat.
No, not right now. But if I open this door, she would be right here and she would be doing the same thing. But yeah, even if it is not the ideal version of whatever I want, I need to get over it and be in the moment that is. It's kind of like you were talking about, like just survive the week, just the whatever. I don't want to live a life where I hate any moment of my life because it's not exactly how I want it to be.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to live a life where that 5 minutes of meditation is just me grumbling about how I can't meditate and there's this many minutes left and I'm doing a shit job. I want to be at a point in my life where I'm like, it's okay that I'm struggling with this. And yes, there's 2 minutes left. The fact that I noticed there was 2 minutes left is an opportunity for me to be present and to say, wow, feel how long 2 minutes is when I can't focus versus when I'm wasting time on my phone.
Yeah.
I want to be able to like seize every moment possible to be there and experience exactly what's happening and not try to change it and not try to control it. Just
Mm-hmm.
be.
Yeah.
That's hard. That's monk stuff. I'm not a
Yes.
monk.
Same. Same. Well, any additional thoughts about false connection or true connection before we move on to joy and where we're connecting with joy?
Just that it relies on you and you alone.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't have anything to do with the other people, even though it feels very much like it does. It doesn't.
Yeah.
It's just you, which is harder.
Yeah. And it's not just that it starts with you, it continues with you, it
The whole
ends
thing
with
is
you.
you. Yeah.
Yep.
Oops.
Which is weird. If nobody's thinking about me, then how's it all about me?
Right? That's for another episode.
It's a cliffhanger. Well, that is so funny.
What's your moment of joy for the week?
By the time this airs on the 30th, I will be back from a trip. And so I'm keeping my theme with my moments of joy being about the trip because here at the front end of the trip, as we are planning where we want to go, one thing that's really important to me is connecting with the place I go to. So I don't want to just go to the Instagrammable places that exist in every community. So, for example, we're going to be in Yakima, Washington, which a couple things they're known for. Number one, according to the interwebs, they are known for their apple production. So we are 100% hitting that Instagrammable apple farm while we're there. But there's also this thing about like how logging is big in the area. And it's this person's logging farm and the history of what logging has meant to the area of Yakima. Which most people are going to be like, so you're going to go look at plank? Maybe.
Yes.
I don't
would
know.
Totally do that.
And so we like to look up, like, where does the internet say to go? And then I'm asking, like, Bob, the IT guy, Bob, where do you take your sisters when they come to visit? What do you do on the weekends? Like, where do you go for coffee? Because the first 10 places we Googled are Starbucks around Yakima. I want to know where, Bob's cousin's sister's coffee shop is.
Yep.
Those are really the true connections with the space. And it's going to be much harder in Portland and Seattle. But that's where when we go to the Googleable place in Portland and then we ask like the long-haired guy that's sketching in his notebook next door, like,
yes,
where do you really go for coffee?
Yeah. What's your favorite place to get dinner?
He's going to take us to his dad's place.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm super excited about that.
Because you want genuine connection.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I was trying to pull it around back to. But yeah.
Hell yeah.
What about you?
I love that. Gosh, so I went camping. This is multiple weekends ago whenever this airs. But I went camping with a group of sober ladies. And that was great. It was so good. I was freezing. I need to get a different sleeping bag.
Sub-zero bag.
Yeah, and this is rated 0, but I call bullshit. But even that, like even the lack of sleep and the cold, like it didn't matter. Like to me, that's part of it. Again, like trying to be present in every moment and not fighting it and not trying to like change things. I wasn't going to freeze to death. Like I wasn't ignoring frostbite or anything. But I was able to lay there and be like, this is part of camping. Like I never sleep well when I camp. Like it's just not a thing. Like I was totally comfortable, like laying wise.
Yeah.
A wonderful mat. I was just chilly, not cold, just chilly.
Yeah.
And I was able to just lay in the tent and like hear the fucking acorn missiles pounding down everywhere. It was crazy. It was like everyone was getting pelted in the head or the shoulder or the leg, and they hurt. Yes. And it was so funny, like, because we're all talking about it because it's just, you can't ignore it. It's like bombs going off. And, I'd get ready to be falling asleep and bam, all of a sudden one hits the tent. And it was just a lot of being really present and being able to laugh at like how easily we can get off track or how we can hyper focus on things or how a group as a whole can find humor in like slightly terrifying situations.
Yeah.
But it was really good. I got to use my camping stuff and, finally get out there, and it was great. Loved it.
Connecting with other women in the program too. Yeah. That must have been a
It was so
nice
good because I didn't
too.
know most of them.
Oh,
Like I knew a
neat.
handful of them.
Yeah.
Like I knew two decently well. I had an acquaintance with maybe two or three other ones, and then the rest of them
Mhm.
I had never met before. So
That's neat.
that's always really cool.
Yeah.
Because you can't go to all the meetings, so you can't meet all the people
Right.
in the local program. So it was really cool to like hear different people's stories and just to like meet new humans. And I mean,
Mhm.
being all in recovery, you kind of inherently have deeper conversations right off the bat, even if
Yeah.
it's like self-deprecating humor.
You get a running start.
Yes, because you
Yeah.
all already know you've been through some shit
Yeah.
and it took a lot to get you here. So that's always really cool.
Yeah. So you can broaden connection as well as make it deep. But what we are
Yes.
trying to say is whatever you do, make it a true connection.
Yes, within yourself and connect with your own motivations and try to be unselfish and truly listen. Like if you have nothing to add, just like be a really good listener. That's okay.
Very good. And we know you are all very good listeners as well.
Yes.
And we're grateful for you. And because of that gratitude, I feel comfortable enough to make this ask that we would love it if you shared the podcast with other people. We want to
Yeah.
grow, and that's how we grow. That's how we grow connections with others and, broaden the platform in a way that people feel like they can offer suggestions. What do you want us to talk about?
Yeah, this is a
So,
convo. We need the other side of the conversation
yeah.
for that to happen. And, like us, like the YouTube video if you liked it. Tell us if you didn't. Like genuinely give us a comment on your thoughts, like the deep, like let us have a deep connection with you. Give us a review on podcast platforms.
Yep.
I don't know why that helps so much, but it does.
I don't know. It's an algorithm
It's
somewhere.
so weird. Yeah.
But if you know, like, and trust us, we'd appreciate it if you share us with other people who
Yes.
know, like, and trust you.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's how we grow this conversation in general. But
Good.
yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Genay. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye.